The P08 pistol carbine is the newest addition to Battlefield 5's weapon arsenal, and with that a further addition of a new weapon category for the Scout class in Battlefield 5. It comes as essentially a close quarter semi-automatic with relatively limited damage potential at long range, but relatively decent close to close medium range performance. Or at least in theory. What we're of course going to be doing in today's weapon review is take a closer look at those stats of the P08 pistol carbine. We're going to take a look at the specializations available and that I would recommend for this weapon. Of course, talk about how it performs compared to some of the other semi-automatic SLR firing weapons out there. And of course, lastly, how to get the most out of this weapon when using it on the battlefield. But starting off as we always do with the stats of the Luger P08 pistol carbine. In this case, you've got a maximum damage of 36 and a minimum damage of 18, giving you a 3-shot kill, regrettably only up until 10 meters. From that point onwards, you're looking at a 4-shot kill up until 30 meters, a 5-shot kill up until 50 meters, and from that point onwards, a 6-shot kill. So damage gets relatively quickly, relatively pathetic, regrettably. Now in terms of fire rate, it's relatively high to compensate for that, of course, at 360 rounds per minute, and it's got a ridiculously large magazine size at 33 shots available. This comes paired with a relatively decent reload actually, for at least the short reload that's with 1 or more bullets left in your mag or and chamber at 2.53 seconds, the longer reload of 4 seconds taking you a little bit longer, but I'm going to be honest, I don't think I've ever actually hit that reload even once in a more sticky situation. In terms of recoil then, the weapon is relatively controllable, as pretty much all of the semi-automatics generally are, especially the semi-automatics. The SLRs can be sometimes a little bit more tricky, with vertical of 1.1 and absolutely no horizontal recoil of course to speak of, and relatively usual stat values in terms of accuracy for a weapon of this kind of caliber in terms of what you would expect, with 0.15 for ADS while standing and not moving, 0.3 while doing the same and moving, and surprisingly good hip fire at 1.2 while hip firing, standing and moving simultaneously. In terms of your specializations then, the first choice you have is between quick aim for faster ADS time and swings and swivel for faster weapon switching and being able to fire your weapon sooner after returning from your sprinting state. In terms of your second choice then, you either go left for hip fire upgrades or right for accuracy upgrades. In the case of the hip fire side, that is the left side, you've got the enhanced grip giving you even better hip fire accuracy, followed by the polished action giving you essentially longer or more sustained accuracy when hip fired. On the right hand side then you have the custom stock, which gives you better accuracy while aiming down sight and moving, and the lightened stock, which gives you about 60% faster moving while aiming down sight. Between your last choice then, it's either between quick reload on the left or on the right barrel bedding, which gives you better accuracy while standing still. Of course, this leaves us then with the position. How does this weapon compare? How does it perform? Is it really any good? And while the Luger P08 is certainly not quite as much of a disaster, at least to me personally, as the Commando Carbine was when it came out, it's certainly not going to blow anybody out of the water. I'd say it's, frankly, in need of a severe buff. If we kind of compare the damage to some of the other semi-automatic type firing weapons, that can include, of course, the SLRs, the semi-autos, the now added pistol carbine, and I would even argue the bolt action carbines, given that they fire fast enough to the point where you can actually compare them to some of the slower firing SLRs, for example, the ZH-29. That means, of course, that this weapon has a large variety of competitors out there, but the ones that we're going to be focusing on mostly are the semi-automatics, because those are the ones that are actually focused on that more close medium-long in certain instances, kind of combat distance that this weapon is focused on. Obviously, the P08 isn't going to be a competition for snipers, because that's not its role. It doesn't have the damage model to compete at those ranges. But what about going up against something like a MAS 44 or an M1A1? Well, regrettably, actually, you're going to pretty much lose every single engagement that you're going to engage, even against those weapons, let alone, of course, more close-quarter focused weapons, such as the SMGs, assault rifles, or most of the LMGs, and of course, a bipoded MMG. Why? Well, because of how quickly you lose that 3-shot kill. While most semi-autos actually maintain their initial bullet to kill, be that a 3 or 4 bullet to kill, up until 30, sometimes even 50 meters, this weapon loses it as if it were a fully automatic AR at 10 meters, and that's a massive problem for its damage, because while it can compete with something like the MAS 44 up until 10 meters, and even slightly outdamages something like an M1A1 up until 10 meters, as soon as it slips up to a 4 bullet to kill, it's massively outdamaged by essentially everything in the game, even amongst the semi-autos. And there's something else to talk about there as well, and that is that semi-autos really are not the best weapon category to be having in close quarters. Why? Well, because of the strafing while shooting and hip firing meta that we have with fully automatic weapons in Battlefield 5. And that's no criticism at that kind of weapon design, at the SMGs, ARs, or LMGs that are very good at that kind of combat, especially, however, the SMGs, Tommy Gun and Suomi, MP40, your personal preference, whatever it may be. But it's actually a criticism at more the development and design of this weapon specifically, because a single shot or very accuracy reliant weapon like this at slow fire rates is going to always struggle in close quarters, even if it would have a damage advantage against some of the more competent and popular close quarter choices. But not only does it not have that damage advantage, no, it has that disadvantage of being a semi-auto. You miss one shot with this weapon, you're dead. And as soon as you're outside of its 3-shot kill range, you're at a damage disadvantage. Once you live its 4-shot kill range, which is already at 30 meters and very soon the case, and more the kind of engagement distance where a semi-auto starts to become a little bit more relevant compared to an automatic weapon, well, then you're completely outgunned. I mean, then you're facing down still a mass, which is shooting at 3 bullets to kill, and you're at 5 bullets to kill. Same fire rate, by the way, at this point as well. And at 30 meters and onwards, you're looking at an M1A1 that is essentially got half the time to kill that you do. Not quite, but close to half the time to kill. So your weapon then becomes wholly ineffective, to be very honest. It's not that you can't kill people, but essentially any other weapon would be a better choice in that situation. What I do want to end off on, however, is that there is a small saving grace, although it is somewhat of a small saving grace, in that the P08 has excellent hipfire. With the right hipfire upgrades, you're looking at hipfire accuracy comparable to an SMG, and you're going to want to make use of that, in my opinion, as well. It's why my recommended specialization tree is down the lines of essentially all left and then right. Quick aim, enhanced grip, polished action, and then for the very end, the barrel bedding, because quick reload on this weapon doesn't really make sense given how the reload is relatively quick, and you never really have to reload this weapon because it's got 33 shots in the mag, and, well, you could down essentially half an enemy team with that before having to reload if you're close enough to them and accurate enough with the weapon. So using the hipfire can be fun, can be advantageous. It's somewhat of a unique property of this weapon, but if I had to design this weapon to be balanced, semi-competitive in any kind of fashion, I would significantly extend its 4 bullet to kill. Leave it being ineffective at long range, that's fine. It's slipping up to a 6 bullet to kill, I don't know, at 70 meters. I have no problem with that. It doesn't have to be competition for the snipers, bolt action rifles, the semi-autos, or the SLRs. But in close quarter combat, at least, make it competent. And close quarter combat, regrettably, doesn't end at 10 meters. More at 30, and even beyond then. You're going to be facing plenty of SMG users and AR users that have most competent weapons out there. That being said, though, I'd love to know what you guys think of the Luger P08 pistol carbine. So leave that, as well as, of course, your usual video suggestions and feedback down below in the comments, or hit me up with them on Twitter. If you found this video helpful, enjoyable, interesting, don't forget to give it a thumbs up. But with all that being said, I'd like to thank you very much for watching, and hope to see you in the next Battlefield 5 video.